It's Absolutely Auburn, a place where we'll talk about all things Auburn, Maine, because we're in the middle of it all. The City of Auburn's communications team is dedicated to helping you connect with city government and learn everything you need to know about Auburn, our city, our people, our events, and our community. Welcome to Absolutely Auburn.
On this episode of Absolutely Auburn, we are speaking with Auburn Public Works and our friends from Woodard Curran to talk about the science and environmental reasons why we treat the roads the way we do in the winter months. Welcome back to Absolutely Auburn. I'm your host, Jenn Boenig, and I have to apologize for the delay in the new episode. Between the holidays and New Year's Auburn, which was fantastic, I kind of let the podcast slide a little bit, but today, new year, new beginning, we're going to dive right in with a great new episode. So today in the studio, I've got Scott Holland, our Director of Auburn Public Works, Adam Stevens, our Deputy Director of Auburn Public Works, and Sarah King, an environmental engineer at Woodard Curran. And Woodard Curran is an environmental consulting firm that supports the city with our municipal stormwater permit compliance. Did I get that right, Sarah?
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me, everyone.
Yeah, no problem.
So we've had some snow events recently, and it's winter in Maine, so that's going to happen. Whether it's snow or ice, people always want to know how the roads are and if it's safe to travel. But what I think a lot of people don't realize is there is a scientific and environmental reasons why we treat the roads the way that we do. I certainly didn't know about the science until I started to chat with my public works friends. So salt and sand help, but that salt and sand also ends up in our storm drains and eventually makes its way into the Androscoggin River and even locally Logan Brook. So if there's too much salt in the water, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing, isn't there? Mm-hmm. So too much salt in the water has a negative impact on fish, plants, and other aquatic life. So we have a challenge. We've got to balance the protecting the lakes, the rivers, the streams, the environment with keeping the roadways safe. So let's kind of get into a little bit of the background first. Sarah, what is stormwater and how does it become polluted?
Thank you, Jen. Stormwater is water that originates from precipitation. It includes rain and meltwater from snow. Stormwater generally flows over the ground. It flows over your lawns, over the sidewalks, through parking lots, and gutters into storm drains. And storm drains discharge right into waterways like lakes and rivers and streams. A couple of things that are really important to note about stormwater are that as it flows over the ground, it picks up pollution and it discharges it through the stormwater drainage system. The second thing that is important to note is that the stormwater drainage system is untreated. So everything that goes into the stormwater system, it goes straight into those water bodies like Logan Brook and Androscoggin River. When you have excess salt, which we call chloride, from winter maintenance activities, that is pollution that can be picked up in stormwater or by stormwater, and that can be discharged into our surface waters. When that happens, the excess chloride increases the salinity of the receiving water body. It can stress and even kill aquatic life. It can disrupt plant growth. It can cause long-term damage to ecosystems, and it can affect the quality of our drinking water.
So are there certain places in the city that we're particularly focused on the chloride pollution in particular?
So yes, there are areas in Auburn that the city is particularly focused on chloride pollution. Logan Brook is one of those areas. Logan Brook has its headwaters near the Auburn Mall, and it is listed by the Maine Department of Environmental Protection as an urban impaired stream. Chloride is identified as a stressor for Logan Brook, and the city currently implements targeted best management practices to reduce its chloride use in the Logan Brook watershed, and it implements an education and outreach program to help private entities in that watershed also reduce their fluoride use.
I didn't even realize Logan Brook was there until we were putting together, the notes for this podcast, and I was like, oh, I guess there is water over there, and that's a lot of parking lot surface, which means I'm sure usually parking lots is where people tend to aggressively salt and sand. So that definitely must be a challenge. So Scott and Adam, how does the Public Works team minimize its use of that salt and sand while trying to maintain the roads? And Sarah had mentioned best practices. So what does that look like, I guess, from a practical standpoint?
All right, so we start out, we have a snow and ice control plan that we actively follow. It starts out with operator training in the fall. We train everybody on our salt usage from the year before, and we, calibrate our trucks to make sure our trucks are all computerized so that the salt is metered when it comes out. The gate settings are set at 2 inches. And, the salt, if we set it at 200 pounds a lane mile, that's what it's putting out. The computer also starts and stops with the truck, so it doesn't continually run if we stop at a stop sign or a street signal or anything like that. We also, when we run the salt, we run it so it's towards the center line. If it's a double lane road, it's usually on the lines that are painted. That way it's on the highest point of the road. And it's right in a wheel track where traffic helps, spread it. The spinner, we do not run spinners. If we do, it's just in an intersection. We don't run it curb to curb. So that keeps the salt away from the curbs, where the basins are. Like I said, the traffic, we basically use the traffic to help us spread it. And snow and ice control chart, that breaks down the different scenarios. So we have such things as precip, we have temperature, the salt application rates, and we use that based on what's happening at the time. The colder the storm, a little higher application rate at the time, salt is ineffective really below 15 degrees. And if we have storms like that, sometimes we don't run anything. We try to maintain, until we know that temperature is going to come up and we're not putting a lot of salt out there. And one of the biggest things that we do is plow. If we don't get rid of the snow and the ice off the road, it's using more salt to get rid of it. So we plow and we plow and we plow some more. Carbide edges don't hurt the environment. Salt does. So we try to cut down on as much as we can. Again, the timing of putting the salt out, best during commute times. And like I said, traffic helps work that salt. All of our trucks have road and air temp monitors or sensors in them, so we can monitor. Like I said, we use that chart and we go by road temperatures or air temperatures. They both align with that. We're also using camera systems now too. We have 2 set up throughout the city that have that can monitor the road temperatures as well. So our guys are seeing that, before the storm starts, so they're pre-planning and they know what they're going to do when they get out there. And one of the other biggest things that we've done is we've switched from using calcium chloride, which is very expensive for one thing, a little more corrosive, to just using salt. We use salt with salt brine. And we have our own machine at the garage where we mix up salt, and it's just water mixed with it, and it makes a 23.3% solution. You were talking about science. There's the science. And we mix that with that. The salt is being sprayed with that brine solution as it's coming out of the truck. Salt needs moisture in order to activate. And if it's a dry, fluffy snow, salt, it needs something to activate it when it hits the road. So by spraying it with salt brine, that gets it activated and it makes it work, along with all the other things that I told you about traffic and timing and all of that.
Right. See, like I said, there is a science and an art to this, people. And you're monitoring a variety of things, like you said, road temp, air temp. And now Auburn's a big city. So what might work on Main Street in downtown Auburn might not work out on, I don't know, let's say Stetson Road, right?
It's based on traffic. Traffic does help it. But it also, too, if we're putting it out on Stetson Road, the salt's going to stay there, and it may let it work longer than it would on Center Street. So you've got to think of that as well.
So safety is always our top priority. And again, balancing kind of the need to treat the roads, I shouldn't say versus, working hand in hand with protecting the environment. And Scott, you mentioned, making sure you're not, what did you say, curb to curb, so that you're not kind of hitting the storm drain directly with the salt. Mm-hmm. Are there other things that we're doing to kind of prevent salt from entering those storm drains?
Well, like I said, applying as the storm starts, we'll go out as it starts to fall, and we put a coat down, depending on the temperatures, based on what we use for an application rate. And we get that down so the snow doesn't bond to the pavement. And again, by doing that on the center line, it's keeping it away from the basins, no spinner. We're getting that down so it does not bond to the pavement. And then we maintain it after that. So we may run a higher application rate at first, but then we drop back and we just maintain. So there's a brine working the whole time. And you'll notice that in storms, roads aren't going to be black and wet during a storm. They're going to be slushy or whatever. But if they're slushy, then that means what we're doing is working because it's not bonding. And we're able to scrape that slush off. And then when the storm does stop, if we have to put a little bit more out, it's on the lower side for an application rate, it bears the road off. And by doing that too, it's a salt priority. We're not running sand. Sand is also bad. Sand does make it to the basins no matter what we do. And we have a lot to do in the spring to clean up from that. So by, running just salt, it basically breaks down and it's just a liquid form or whatever. And it's not the solid rock crystals that are going into the basin. And we apply it at the start of the storm based on the temp to keep from bonding pavement and maintaining a brine throughout the storm. Obviously, the warmer the storm, the less salt that we have to be applied. And just for reference, if you take 250 pounds a lane mile, that is taking 5 50-pound bags and spreading it out over a mile. So that's how our trucks are calibrated. That's how we know what we're putting out.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Now, I'm sure it's somewhat of a challenge. Your average person is not going to know all of this, right? So I'm at my house and I'm going ham, throwing all this salt and sand out. What do I need to know? What even do businesses need to know? Because, you see those trucks out there and you mentioned the spinner and you see that, and they're out there, doing the parking lots and stuff, trying to keep people safe. But are there steps that residents and even business owners could tell the folks that they're contracting with that would help kind of cut back on some of that ending up into the waterways? And anyone can answer that question.
All right, so you want to attack the snow like a pro. You want to shovel early and shovel well. Removing snow before ice has a chance to form is the best way to stay on top of winter maintenance. A little goes a long way, like I said before. And in order for salt to be effective as a de-icer, it's important to measure out the right amount, no more, no less. For the surface you need to cover. So a 12-ounce mug, for instance, could cover 10 sidewalk squares.
Really?
So it goes a long way. And you want to spread it evenly. You want to avoid clumps of salt. Use a handheld spreader or shaker in order to achieve an even spread where the salt granules are at least 1 to 2 inches away. So you picture just a piece of rock salt. They're not, you don't want them touching each other. You want them 1 to 2 inches away, and that's the way salt is supposed to work.
Not the way I do it, then.
So I have to say, Scott, when I hear you talk about the 12-ounce mug, I find myself in the mornings in the winter when there's a storm, when I'm drinking my coffee, I look at my coffee mug and I look out at my driveway and I have a mental check to say, this is about how much I'm probably going to need. I shouldn't be digging in more unless the directions tell me otherwise. I wanted to say something that you said earlier. You said that salt it's not effective below, I believe it was about 15
degrees.
So that's something that I always try to remember when I'm at home, that, what is the temperature? If it's less than 15 degrees, I'm going to keep my salt bag shut and I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to wait for the temperature to rise, or just shovel, or have my kids shovel.
There you go. Always recruit the kids. Now, I know, so no salt if it's below 15 degrees, but is sand then helpful in that instance?
If you need traction, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yep.
And I know, speaking of sand, and I know this is slightly off topic, but we also do, Auburn Public Works does sand buckets for seniors as well. I don't know, Adam or Scott, if you want to mention of that program.
Yeah, sure. So every fall, we have a list of last year's buckets that we delivered. We call them, see if they need another bucket. And then we also take new calls for people that would need a bucket of sand. We make a list. We go out, we deliver it. Usually takes 2 weeks, give or take, to deliver all the buckets. And then they have a bucket of sand for the wintertime for their own steps and their own walkways and stuff.
Right, which is nice. And now, is that sand treated with anything? Is it mixed with anything, or is it just sand?
No, it's got a little bit of salt mixed in with it.
Nice.
Yep.
So technology is always changing, and I'm sure that there are other alternative methods that folks could look at to help de-ice and keep themselves safe, and that the city is probably looking at too. So what are some of those, up and coming or newer technologies that we're looking to utilize, or we are utilizing here in the city of Auburn?
We could use a tank and do some de-icing, anti-icing, which would be going out and spraying the roads, but the temperatures have to be right for that. And we would just be using the standard salt brine that we use to wet the salt. We have not got into that yet. With the salt that we do use, there's some residue that's left on the road, and that kind of does the same thing. We don't do that, but we're always looking for new technology. Like I said, we're putting the temperature sensors in the trucks.
Right.
We could do it if we needed to. Our computers are prescriptive spreading. We could set it up so it's based on the air temperature is what they spread out. We've tried that a couple times, but if you got some lumps in the salt or whatever, it doesn't work as good. But there may be a time that we go to that. We talk about sand. Sand is kind of a feel-good thing. It does provide a little bit of traction, but it does not do anything for the environment. It lasts very short, and then it ends up in the basins, and then we're cleaning them out in the springtime with our catch basin truck or sweeping. It creates a lot of work for us, and it only lasts a few minutes. When salt, you can get that brine work in and keep the roads from bonding.
Okay, so right, not too much salt.
Correct.
Just enough salt, some sand.
And just to put that into perspective, the salt that we're using, we used to use mixing it with sand.
Right.
And we've gone to a salt priority now, and we're not using any more salt than we would if we had to mix it in the sand to keep it from freezing, if we were putting sand out every time. So that is better for the environment. Okay.
Interesting. And I know you mentioned using those temperature sensors in a few places or throughout the city to kind of monitor that. All
of our supervisor trucks have them, and we're looking for better ones too. We have 2 or 3 different kinds, and there are a couple out there that work better than the others. But that gives us an idea of what we should be putting out for salt. It's a big tool for that.
Mm-hmm. So if residents, businesses, business owners, just regular old folks, if we want to help protect the waters from pollution, where can we get additional information? Where can we learn more?
You could go on the city website under the Public Works tab, or you could call Public Works. We're more than happy to explain it to you.
I will say that Woodard Curran, we work closely with them. They provide us with material as well. We had a meeting last 3 weeks ago in New Auburn, and we used this little sheet that I have in front of me here, Attack the Snow Like a Pro, and we gave that out to all the residents in that meeting. So we could get our hands on any of that stuff.
Nice.
Also, I would say follow the city and follow the Public Works Facebook, Twitter pages. There is a lot of good information and information about events that gets pushed out onto those platforms. They're amazing resources.
Yes, yeah. The Public Works Facebook page is pretty up to date. So, and definitely follow the city pages as well if you're looking for parking bans and other kind of storm related information. That's usually your best place to find that information. So, Scott and Adam, when there isn't winter weather, what does a typical workday look like for the two of you?
Well, after a storm, usually we like to do maintenance on the trucks. So we're washing, cleaning, doing plow repair. So the plow blades, if they need any bolts that broke off or change the blades, anything like that. We're doing all that. The trucks go into the mechanics bays if they need any service. Patching potholes that pop up. Prepping for the next season. So getting our street sweepers ready, getting those maintenance and ready to go. Basically anything. We're getting ready for the next storm. It's
an event if I throw that at you.
Yep.
One of the biggest things is snow removal as well. What falls out of the sky, we have certain areas in the city where there's no snow storage, so we have to remove it.
Ah, yeah. Yeah. Yes, I learned that utilizing Festival Plaza sometimes in the winter. The snow has to go somewhere and it can't stay there.
That's right.
At New Year's Auburn, for example. And now, Sarah, I know you don't work here for the city per se, but at Woodard Curran, what does a typical workday look like for you?
I get to work with a lot of different clients like the city of Auburn and solve problems, help make things easier to implement. My goal in Auburn is to make Scott and Adam's life as easy as I can. But it really just focuses around problem solving and innovating and just working to make sure that people have the information that they need to make informed decisions and go forth in their days in an intentional way.
Now, what's the most interesting part of your job, Sarah?
Problem solving.
I
know, it's so vague.
You like a challenge. I like that.
I absolutely love, if I picked, I think maybe my favorite part, it would be getting to interact with people. Environmental regulations and the science of everything, it can be hard to understand why we have to do certain things. And I absolutely love the conversations that I get to have intermittently with people and just help them understand why. Relative to this conversation, the Androscoggin River is such an incredible resource, and it's a resource that we all love and support. And it's really neat when we have intersections like that, where we can find those commonalities, and we all want to work together to have safe roads, have safe parking lots. But we all want to be able to go out and fish in the summertime, or swim, or canoe, or kayak, or whatever you do. So
yeah. How about you, Adam? What's the most interesting part of your job?
I would have to say education. Educating the residents as they call in about some of this stuff and giving them some of the history of the hows and the whys, and this is why we do it. And educating the new people that we hire. We've had quite a few of those this year. And a lot of it is, I didn't know that. I didn't know that's how you did that. I didn't know this. I didn't know that. So it's really nice to be able to educate people so they kind of get an understanding of what we do and how we do it and why.
Yeah. And Scott?
For me, it's just, when you mention public works, you think just roads and parking lots, sidewalks, all of that. But we have many different variety of tasks that we do. Just for instance, facilities is under us. So, anything sidewalk related to a facility or a doorway or whatever, we maintain that. And it's just a variety of tasks.
And the parks and there's a lot of stuff. Public Works is kind of that catch-all department. You guys do a little bit of everything, I think. And like I said, they get sucked into my events too. But they're the best crew to work with, I have to say. What is your favorite thing about Auburn? And it doesn't have to be work related. Anyone can start.
Well, for me, I can tell you, even if it's Woodard Curran, which is, they're our consultant, or anybody in this city building, we work as a team, and I always preach that. And that is the thing, is we solve things as a team. So that's my favorite thing of Auburn, and it is work related, but that's exactly how I feel.
How about you, Adam?
Yeah, kind of to piggyback on that is our staff. Yeah. We're all great people, love to work together, love to solve problems together. We have a really good staff here all around.
And what do you think, Sarah?
I absolutely love how willing the staff in Auburn is to be public facing. So things like this podcast, I mean, learning about salt use and winter maintenance from Public Works, like that's pretty incredible. When I walked into the building this morning, I was commenting earlier how exciting it is that you have a Go Skate with the Police Department event coming up. Like, the staff is so integrated into the community, which makes them accessible to community members, and that just fosters such a positive environment. So that's what I got.
We do. We have a great team here, and we are a part of this community. So it's important that we do all of those different things. Anything else that you all want to share that we might not have touched on as far as additional information about, kind of protecting our waterways while also protecting ourselves and the roadways in the winter months?
For me, as I mentioned, our trucks are calibrated. If we could just ask contractors, especially in that Logan Brook or anywhere in the city as far as that goes, even though they have the small sanders on the back of a 1-ton, those can be calibrated as well. And if it's something, they could look it up very easily and calibrate them so we're not spreading salt like we are in some of these parking lots. That would certainly help.
Okay, good to know. As Adam had mentioned earlier, you can find more information on the city's website, auburnmaine.gov. If you're looking for the Public Works page in particular, when you click on departments on the city's homepage, you'll see under the government tab, Public Works, and you'll find that Public Works landing page. And there you're going to see actually a whole host of information on that left-hand side menu. Stormwater is one of those choices. And when you get to that landing page, there's additional information there, as well as other resources. And kind of, as everyone had mentioned here, if you follow, whether it's the city's website or the city and or Auburn Public Works on Facebook and some of those other social media channels, you'll find some of this other information, some of these other friendly reminders, as well if there is any winter parking bans or any other kind of storm-related information. So finding us on social is the way to go and get the most up-to-date information. So thanks for joining us, everyone. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for joining us on Absolutely Auburn. You can find all things Auburn, Maine at auburnmaine.gov and goauburn.me. You can also listen to us anytime, anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio, just to name a few. The City of Auburn's communications team wants to remind you that Absolutely Auburn is the only official podcast for the City of Auburn, Maine.